There's a lot of talk about demonic possession in the news and on social media, but what does the science say? In this video, Dr. Hassaan Tohid discusses the myth of demonic possession and offers his insights on how to deal with this type of situation. Join Glenn Daniels and Dr. Hassaan Tohid today on essential leadership skills and discussion with TEDx speakers.
This is a Touchstone Publishers presentation, your trusted source of leadership knowledge.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you once again for dropping in on today's Essential Leadership Skills. As the introduction said, we have Dr. Hassaan Tohid with us today, and we have broached the subject that a lot of people don't really want to talk about. But I think you discover that as we talk about this subject, you'll be able to find some correlation to your life, to your organization. Dr. I can't call you just Dr. Hassaan. Is that okay by you, or would you prefer Dr. Tohid?
You can call me whatever you like.
All right, then.
Either way.
Well, then I'll just say this, Dr. Hassaan, thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn, for inviting me over.
Great. Now, let's talk about the hard thing. Well, no, let's save that. Let me tease this a little bit. When you were preparing your talk, especially this talk, from the day you decided to do it to the day you got up on stage, what was that journey like to get ready to deliver this one?
I have always been a non-conventional, a non-traditionalist kind of person who always thinks in scientific way, who always supports evidence, proofs, and research evidence approach. And whether it's related to climate, whether it's related to religion, or if it's a scientific topic, I always have a logical point of view that everything is logical and there is a reason behind it, and there is a scientific phenomena behind some unseen or ununderstandable mechanisms that we often come across. So it had been my great desire for past 8 years, because I delivered this talk in 2019, and I imagined delivering this talk in 2011. That one day I will be on the TED stage and I will put forward my idea and my concept of this idea of demonic possession. That is there a scientific mechanism behind it? I knew there was one, but I wanted everyone else to hear it. That was the main reason. And that's how eventually it took me 8 years, but eventually I got there.
I do not remember the artist's name who wrote the song, but oh geez, I don't remember the title, but it talks about imagination is. If you can imagine it, it happens. If you just get really believing it. Gosh, I'll remember it tomorrow. But actually, I want to say it's Chuck Mangione.
Napoleon Hill, in his book, Think and Grow Rich, says that if your mind can perceive it, you can achieve it.
Yeah, yep. But if you can conceive it, you can achieve it. W. Clement Stone was, I think, the person who gave him that and said, use it, because that's what it really comes down to. If your mind can conceive it, you can achieve it. So that meant that you spent a lot of time imagining yourself, getting yourself ready for this talk. Were you prepared, and I'm still teasing just a bit, were you prepared for the kickback that's going to come your way?
Actually, I won't say I practice a lot about this talk, but I had two ideas to deliver on TED stage in my mind, and I started imagining, not too often, but I was gradually doing it, and I delivered both of those topics on the TED stage. One was the mirror neuron, and the second one was this
This one.
DID topic, dissociative identity disorder, or the demonic possession.
Yeah.
So I did have that, and I knew that there will always be mixed views, and I knew that most people will support what I'm saying, but I wasn't expecting that kind of negative comments that I received.
No, that was a little bit shocking. So let's talk about this, the myth of demonic possession. Now, first thing, I can just see why you would be attacked, especially from that one group of folks who support and train people to do exorcisms. And so I'm sure you think a lot about that. Tell us about the thesis behind this. We're going to take a deep dive, but tell us a little bit about the thesis behind this myth. If I'm understanding you correctly when I listen to your TED Talk, you're kind of saying that is a misdiagnosis of things.
I lost you. Could you repeat your question again?
Are we saying this myth diagnosis of demonic possession? Are we saying that is a just misdiagnosis of symptoms and that nature?
Absolutely. Anything you see that is unexplainable, anything that we see as supernatural, is actually natural. And there is a phenomena or mechanism behind it. And if we dig deeper, we can find the scientific phenomena hidden behind that actual supernatural phenomenon. For example, many years ago, probably many centuries ago, we used to think that people see demons or ghosts. And today we know that it was actually hallucination. It was a symptom like psychosis, in which you see things, you hear things, you perceive things that don't exist. And later on, we named the disease schizophrenia. But if you ask a person 500 years ago about schizophrenia, and you tell him the exact symptoms people face in schizophrenia, he will highly likely tell you that, oh, this is demonic possession, or this person is seeing ghosts. In reality, he's not seeing ghosts, but because they did not have the answer at that time, so they thought it was ghosts. And the same thing with sleep paralysis. We have sleep paralysis when some people feel this, that when they are sleeping, they feel that their body is stuck, they cannot move their body, and some alien or some ghost is sitting on their chest. And people feel that maybe I am possessed by demons, or ghosts are trying to kill me. They're trying to sit on my chest and trying to grab my neck and stopping me from breathing. For so many years, people thought this was actually an attack by demons and ghosts, but actually, in reality, science now proved, or has proven today, that it was not. It is a scientific phenomena, sleep paralysis. Sleep
Yeah.
paralysis is a scientific phenomena. You get hallucinations. It's a phenomena in rapid eye movement sleep. When you are sleeping and you are dreaming, at that time your body is stuck, you cannot move your body, but you can actually see, but you still can also feel some hallucinations, and it is so real that you feel that somebody is really touching your body, your chest. So this
Well,
is an actual phenomena. So we have scientific answer today. Same thing with demonic possession. When people change their personalities, few centuries ago we used to think it was demonic possession, and we firmly believed in that, and people started to do exorcism on those people, and they firmly believed that this is demonic possession. But today, 21st century, science has gone way beyond, and we have answers to so many questions, but we still don't have answers to all the questions.
not yet. Not yet. Not yet. I want to ask you because it goes a little bit deeper than just some of the things. The lady that you spoke about, she had 64 exorcisms in 90 days, was it?
67.
67 in 90 days.
Hmm.
But she was showing different personalities.
Hmm.
And wasn't some of her physical features changing with those personality changes?
When we read about Annalise Michel, that's what her name was.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to find every piece of information I could find about her because of two main reasons. One was that she had this demonic possession, which is one of my favorite topics of study, and I perceive it as DID. I believe it as DID, so it was one of my favorite topics. That was one motivation to study her. Second motivation I had was that her birthday and my birthday come on the same day, September
Oh,
21st.
okay. Okay. That'll wake you
So
up.
that further gave me more motivation to read about her. And I noticed that we still don't have all the information about her. But what we do know that she started developing those symptoms in her teenagers, probably around 15, 16. And she went, or she had gone through 67 rites of exorcism, but those exorcisms did not improve her, they were failed.
Hmm.
And she eventually died of dehydration and malnutrition because the parents refused medical treatment and they solely relied on exorcism and religious treatment.
And we could say, in part, that was due to lack of education.
I won't say lack of education because Annalise herself was a university going student. She was studying linguistics, and many of testimonies about her suggested that she was studying linguistic along with other subjects,
And
languages
that,
and other subjects. And her parents, they obviously sent her to university, so they believed in education and university and schooling. They believed in that. However, what I understood is that it has nothing to do with education or lack of education when people believe in superstition. It's a religious belief because there are certain beliefs when we do have them we tend to deliberately not think in a logical way, we ignore the logical part. And it's just ignorance in one particular aspect
okay.
of life that doesn't make them uneducated.
But
There
it
are
does,
still
okay.
certain things, maybe probably I am ignorant in many things, and I have a conservative belief about certain things I don't know, but somebody
Mhm.
who knows better than me will tell this very clearly that no, your concept is incorrect and this is what the evidence suggests. So that's because I don't know yet.
Right. Well, and just because you haven't been looking at it doesn't mean that you're ignorant either. I guess to me, it just kind of says, well, you're blinded to that fact. You haven't seen that fact. But I want you to explain to me a little bit more. And I may have the patients mixed up here, but didn't she speak, would she take on personality and then speak that language fluently?
After reading a lot about her, I tried to look for the answer. I saw that in the movie Exorcism of Emily Rose, and it was shown that one of her friends testified in the court of law that she did go to linguistic department. She did have some interest in languages. And while further digging deeper, I read certain articles that suggested that she did like languages and she did study languages. So that actually answers the question. And this was one of the most commonly asked questions on my TED Talk. If you see the comment section, that was one of the most commonly asked questions that you gave all scientific evidence, but you did not explain why she was speaking different languages. And I later regret it. I later regretted that why didn't I mention that reason why she spoke different languages?
Hmm.
At that time, I was still searching for the correct answer. I only had the evidence of the movie, which was not a good evidence to show that, oh, there was a scene in the movie that she went to linguistic department of the university she was studying in. This was not a good evidence to give. So I could not find
No.
at that time, but later, as the literature on internet grew, and now after 3 years when we see more about her, we notice that there are some articles that suggested that yes, she did go to linguistic department, she was a language student, she learned languages. And now if I were to deliver a TED talk again on the same topic, I will definitely mention that objection before anyone raises that objection.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
learned from
Okay.
my I've learned from my experience that that should have been discussed. But I'm glad you brought this question. And another thing I want to mention, that even if she was not a student of linguistic,
Hmm.
let's suppose she's not. Let's suppose she did not like languages. She did not go to linguistic department of the university. She did not study languages. You know, Glenn, I can speak 4 or 5 languages. Some of them I am fluent, like English, Urdu, and Hindi. I'm very fluent, and Spanish. See, yo hablo español. Does that mean I'm demonically possessed? And I learned
Yeah.
Mandarin, Chinese, ni hao, wahan hao, wachao Hassan, shishe, ni
Yep.
chao shana mingse. So I learned Mandarin, but basic communication of Mandarin. But if I deliver all those words of Mandarin in front of you again and again, even with my limited vocabulary, you will be highly impressed. If you don't know Mandarin, you will say, wow, he is fluent in Mandarin. He knows Mandarin. Although in reality, I just know the basic lines
Basic. Yeah.
that I have memorized that can help me survive in Beijing.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
That does not make me fluent in Mandarin. So one day, if I lose my senses and I started to believe that I'm demonically possessed, and I'm speaking Spanish, sometimes Urdu, sometimes Hindi words, sometimes English, and sometimes Mandarin. So will not people say that, oh, he is demonically possessed, he speaks multiple languages, without knowing my background, that I did not go to any linguistic school, but I learned languages
Right.
and I keep
Right.
them.
So,
So it's not a big deal if somebody speaks multiple languages.
no, no, not now. Maybe back then, but not even then, really. I mean, but I'm glad you pointed that out, cleaned that up a little bit, because that was something that I kind of latched onto and said, well, wait a minute, is this the case? But also latched onto the one case you talked about where the person was blind, and after a few years of one of her personalities got sight.
Not only
Is
that,
that?
Glenn,
Mhm.
the human brain is so powerful that we are still yet to determine what this thing is behind, or behind our um, skull, or between our ears, this gold mine that we call the gold mine. We still don't know how powerful this thing is. Yes, the human brain is so powerful that they can be blind. DID patients can have blind personalities, and they can have personalities that are not blind. And that blindness is not fake blindness. It was confirmed by electrophysiological studies that it was not fake blindness. Although that's a different story. Was it a conversion disorder or DID? But still, human brain has that capacity to do that. Another example is of the hives, the case I mentioned in my TED talk of the patient named Timmy, who had the allergy of orange juice. One of the personalities developed allergies and hives when he drank orange juice. The other personality did not, and the hives disappeared when the other personality changed.
So that's mind work, though. You're saying that's the strength of those minds, or
Absolutely.
and it's like you've been able to learn all the different languages. That's the strength of your mind
Hmm.
at play. So when and I'm not even sure how demonic possessions are being labeled now, how we decide if someone is a possessed. I'm not sure. But what you're saying is not a possession; it's a disorder.
Absolutely.
Man, I thought that was a main point. That it's not a possession; it's a disorder, and I think you can drill down a little bit on it. I mean, if you drill down to behaviors in classroom or in the workplace or in the nation's capital, sometimes it's just how that mind is shaped. And you could call it whatever you want to, but they're just thinking differently. I kind of want to ask you this, 'cause even though it was a question I kind of saved up for the end, but I wanted to ask you this because you took a moment at the end and said, now I want to talk to those folks who are challenged in this area. And you gave what I thought was a very powerful message. Can you share that message with people who have DID?
I still remember a little bit of it. It's been 3 years now. That what I said was that I myself, as a kid, had ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and probably I still have those symptoms. I had severe problem with focusing and reading, and I recognized it and did whatever I could, the exercises, the mental training exercises and focus training, whatever I could do and learn to get rid of it. So possibly I did not fully gotten rid of it, but I kind of learned to live with it in a healthy way, and I can now control it. So what I mentioned was that ADHD is a mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
and there are so many other problems in psychiatry that are similar to ADHD or any other illness. They can be treated, and people with different mental illnesses have recovered and have gone to do some certain things that are unbelievably awesome. For example, we have a Nobel Prize winner who has schizophrenia, and we had a very famous movie. I forgot the name of the movie, but it was a very famous movie about the beautiful mind. The movie was
Oh,
The Beautiful
yeah, yeah,
Mind.
yeah, yep, 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 yep.
Yeah, the schizophrenic patient, he had schizophrenia, and he did not let that schizophrenia stop him from achieving his life goals and becoming successful. In fact, he got the Nobel Prize, right?
Right, right, right.
So,
Well,
so if one person can do it, I have my example, and we have hundreds and thousands of other examples. So don't let this DID stop you from achieving your life goals, from your life dreams, from becoming something that you can. And if if you just understand it, learn about this illness, you keep improving yourself, you can learn to live with it.
you can learn to live with it, and you're being polite with it. You really made it come home to me where I started thinking about, okay, you know what? We had a president of the United States who had severe depression and lost his son while he was a president of the United States and went into a state of depression. Yet people all across the world said he was the best president we've ever had, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is a gentleman who had a severe case of depression, still became president, lost his son while in the presidency, and still made great strides to save the union. So that's what I thought your message was really powerful there. But it also kind of feeds off the fact that you kind of you're saying that we shouldn't shy away, us, if you want to call us normal people, which nobody is, but we shouldn't shy away from somebody just because they're displaying some symptoms. I should not
So
run away from you because you can speak 10 languages and I can only speak two.
yeah, what I mentioned was very powerful as well. That trauma is the cause of DID, right? If we study DID, people with DID have childhood emotional trauma, mental trauma, some kind of severe trauma, and they later on in their life develop dissociative identity disorder. They change personality, and it's kind of a coping mechanism to get rid of that trauma. They want to forget that subconsciously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that trauma, if it is really the cause, that's what I mentioned, although it is, we know that, but if it really is the cause, and we call these patients with DID as demonically possessed, will most of us help this person, or most of us will run away from this person? Although remember that these people, they need our support, they need our love, they need our affection, they need our help, they need people in their lives. And by calling them demonically possessed, we are labeling them demonically possessed. How many people will spend time with them if we keep marketing the idea that they are demonically possessed? How many people will spend time with them? They need affection to get rid of the trauma they had faced in their lives. So we are not helping them, we are aggravating the trauma. We're aggravating the problem by isolating them, leaving them alone, by labeling them as demonically possessed.
That made so much sense to me, and I couldn't understand. And maybe you can help me because you talked about it just a little bit. Help me understand why there are some people out there who say trauma is not the cause.
I don't think anyone says that trauma is not the cause.
Okay.
And so many answers, by the way, will be given in my upcoming book on dissociative identity disorder by Springer Publisher.
Okay.
I am the senior editor with Dr. Ian Rutkowski, a psychiatrist, and together we both are the editors, and we have compiled and found team of psychiatrists and psychologists all around the world, including world's best experts on DID, and we are working on this book together as a team. So highly likely you will see the book at the end of this year, and many of these questions will be answered in that book, by the way.
And that's when we're going to have you back and have a whole series with hopefully everybody involved there. And that, because that's going to run right into our January Summit of Solutions. So that's going to be perfect.
That would be wonderful. Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. We can do that, and we will look at the availability of everyone. But that is a very good idea.
Yep.
And
Yes.
now coming to that question that you asked, that has
Mhm.
another angle. That
Okay.
question has another angle. That why some people don't believe trauma is the cause. As I said, most people do believe, and majority does, and there is no question about it. But there are some people in the scientific community who don't believe DID to be a disease.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
main.
Yeah.
That's the main problem. That not just non-scientific community, there are some scientists and there are some psychiatrists who don't believe in DID as a disease. The reason is that we don't have enough evidence yet. We are still searching, and the studies that I mentioned in my TED talk about the prefrontal cortex and the orbitofrontal cortex changes in the blood flow, the parietal lobe changes, all of these studies, they do show some changes on MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. However, the sample size was not humongous, it was small. So they found a reason to reject it.
Yep.
And they hopefully they will also believe when they see more evidence coming up.
Yep. Okay.
And our book is an attempt to bring together the whole scientific community to have a unanimous agreement to accept this as a reality so that we can actually help the patients instead of sending them to the wrong treatment, which is the religious treatment. I'm not against any religion, but I'm saying that for this particular condition, instead of religious treatment, they need scientific treatment.
Do you know if there are any other religions other than Catholicism that practices exorcism?
Every religion
To your point.
has this concept of demonic possession
Okay.
in some way or another.
Okay.
The Islamic tradition, Muslims, I can tell you because of my background, the Islamic tradition, Muslim tradition has a concept of jinns, jinns, jinns.
Mhm.
And jinns are creatures mentioned in the Holy Quran that they were created with fire. So there is an evidence in the Quran that these creatures do exist that we cannot see. They are in another dimension that we cannot see. And many Muslims believe that they actually possess people. So these jinns, they possess people. That's what they believe. And when a Muslim person has dual personalities or multiple personalities, they take him to the religious priest of Islamic tradition, and he does his exorcism in his way, and they treat that person like this. And in Muslim countries and Muslim cultures, you will hardly see anyone saying that I am possessed by a devil or Lucifer of Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing
Yeah.
that a Christian will not say I am possessed by jinns. A
Right.
Hindu patient will not say that I'm possessed with a jinn by a jinn or I'm possessed by Lucifer. They will find a character from Hindu mythology
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
as something that possesses them. And same goes with Jewish tradition, or you take any religion. The point I'm making here is why not Lucifer possesses Hindu patients? That's my question to people who support it as a demonic possession. Another question I have is why does not a Muslim patient get demonic possession of Lucifer and other demons? They always will have Muslim characters that are prevalent in their culture and in their books. The point I'm making here is that you have to have certain idea of certain religion before in order to create your second personality.
Okay. Now, the reason why I asked you that question, you brought it right to the point. We all, it doesn't matter, but in all modern day religions that I know about, and lots of people know about, we have something that says possessions. We have something in there that says possessions. So you can't look down your nose and say, we don't do that here. You did. Okay. You can't look down your nose at that anymore. But that should also open up this idea of compassion for your fellow person who has this trauma going on in their life, who they're behaving a certain way because of a certain trauma. I want,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, um, they need, as I said, they need our support. They need compassion. They need empathy. And what we have discussed, I have given, I think, enough evidence, especially the point that why a Christian patient does not develop a Muslim jinn possession.
I
This is
haven't done it.
itself is a big proof,
Yeah,
and vice versa,
yeah,
and vice versa. So they need compassion, they need support. So I will insist and I will request to stop blaming, stop labeling them, and stop judging them, stop stigmatizing the issue of dissociative identity disorder. And if you still doubt that this problem exists, anyone who still has a doubt, just go on Facebook groups on dissociative identity disorder. There are plenty of groups available with thousands of people, thousands of patients who have DID right now available to speak with you and prove you wrong. We have thousands and thousands of testimonies, and just tell them that you don't believe in DID and try to reject it and see what they will do to you, what they will say to you.
yeah. Put a comment in and see what happens.
When somebody is really feeling something and facing problems because of that problem, and you are denying it, you are disrespecting their feelings, you're disrespecting what they are facing right now.
That is a writable moment in my mind because what you just said is that when you disrespect and you don't pay attention to someone else's where they're at, how they're feeling, their trauma, their lives. You're showing just tons of disrespect for them. But more importantly, showing tons of disrespect for yourself. One jumped ahead on my list of questions here, but I want to get to this last question, this last area, and then be aware of everybody's time. There seems to be a subtle difference in the DID with female and males. Did I mishear that? Am I misreading that?
No, there is not subtle differences in the symptoms and signs and what they feel and what they do. The only thing is that most patients are female
Mm.
that we see. And that possibly points towards an idea that maybe female patients tend to not tolerate trauma very well in comparison to male. Or the second point that you once mentioned to me, if you remember, that you told me this when we had a conversation last time about it, Glenn. You told me that possibly this also suggests that we men have not been behaving well with women.
Yeah, yeah. And I think those are two very truthful reasons.
And coming to another part, just last part I want to mention, that many people would say, oh, he's rejecting Bible, he's rejecting our religion, he's
Mm.
attacking our religion. No, I'm not attacking your religion. I respect and love every religion. I believe in Jesus. Okay. And Jesus casted out devils according to Bible, right? So
Yeah.
why do you always have to think of it as as a real word for word translation? Why can't it be a metaphor? Why can't we think out of the box and think maybe casting out devils means cleansing of heart, casting
Well,
out the
yeah.
devil inside and cleaning your heart and making you a good human? That's what Jesus did, right? So maybe it could be a metaphor.
Maybe it could be a metaphor because that's what he taught in. Okay, and maybe that's what Buddha taught in.
Exactly. So we are not denying Bible, we are not denying or disrespecting any religion or Jesus. What I'm saying is maybe there is another perspective of thinking that we have not thought about.
Yeah.
Or maybe demonic possession is DID, and Jesus knew how to treat DID.
Well, if he knew, then we know. So that's what that kind of checks out.
So
Now,
but the point I'm making is that you can still be a very good Christian, very good Catholic, and believe in Jesus. And at the same time, you can believe the DID is a mental illness and demonic possession is actually a scientific phenomenon.
yes. Okay, I love that. Love that. My question for you now: what question should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
That do you believe in demonic possession?
Okay.
I would refrain from answering this question and I'll let the audience decide. What do they think about it? Read more, study more, and listen to me like a student, not a follower. If you agree with me, you like what I'm saying, listen to it as if you are a student of the subject, not my follower. And this goes for anyone. Whenever you hear somebody, listen to that person as a student, not as a follower, and use your own mind and do your own research and come up with a conclusion. And what I believe, I will refrain from mentioning it here.
You did that. We've had that conversation before, and you did the same thing. I'm glad you did it then. I tell you what I added on to that, though. As a student, I need to have evidence. So you can give me your point of view. I need to go find the evidence of that. Like Napoleon Hill said, whenever he has a challenge with somebody, he will ask them, "What is your evidence?" If they don't have evidence for it, then it's not legit. But we can ask you, "What is your evidence?" and you will lay it out just like you did. I need to be able to do the same thing. I can't. I gotta be able to say, "Well, this study, this study, this study, this study. This is my evidence," and that's what a good student will do.
And a lot of scientists have already been saying this.
Yeah.
openly challenging that we are available. Why don't you invite any demon to possess our body? We are available. If
Yes.
on purpose you can let a demon possess our body and make us do some miracles, then we will believe you are right because I'm open to learning, but nobody comes forward.
Well, I said that was gonna be my last question, my questions, but isn't demonic possession just a label now for the DID? I mean, aren't people? Isn't, I want to say a label from the previous century that really is not being talked about or used right now.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe. It's a label for demonic possession. And DID is a label for DID, and also it is label for, if you still see those societies where people are not aware of schizophrenia, some South Asian cultures and societies, and people who don't know medical science well, certain African regions, certain South American regions, they will even perceive a person with schizophrenia as demonically possessed. That he sees demons that we don't, and they will
Mm,
perceive sleep paralysis as demonic possession. They will perceive DID as demonic possession, and they will perceive any kind of psychosis, whether it's drug related, as demonic possession.
great point. Great point. I'm going to ask you to let's make a promise. I think, especially when the book comes out, I think we need to sit back down and just have a series on it. Just series away because we have leadership series, we have TED Talk series, we have 2 minute thought series. I would like to discuss with you, and I'm sure the audience would love it too, because we may get a lot more negative thoughts, but that's powerful. The negative comments, that's powerful though. But would think a series would be a good way to really dive deep into the ID, so we can be more of a help to somebody.
Absolutely, I'm always available for this. I do this and discuss DID on different platforms, believing it as a service given to me by God, by nature, to educate people about the scientific phenomena of dissociative identity disorder, and so that people can seek real treatment
And
rather than
that's
going to fake treatment.
okay. And I'm gonna just toss this out because, as you know, the rest of the world doesn't quite know yet. We're planning a kind of a large summit coming up, and in that summit, it's all about solutions. Okay? When the solution on because if you think about the our homeless situation right now in the United States, some of that has to do with DID. I'm certain that a lot of those folks out there homeless right now, they're suffering through this, and they need our help.
Absolutely, I know somebody, one of my patients, drug addiction patients, had
Hmm.
DID and spent a lot of time in homelessness. So you have a point.
Why can't we get start to learn and give a solution for that? So that's why I think at the end of the year when your book comes out, that's a perfect series to add on to it and make things happen. In the meantime, I don't want to take up all your time on this, but I appreciate you spending the time. And just so everybody knows, we had some technical difficulties and you're doing it again, and that's just major, major, major that you decided to sit back down and do it again because you're busy. You're busy. I greatly
As I
appreciate
said,
that.
I believe it to be a service to mankind to educate them about DID. And when I heard that the previous session was had an error, so I considered it that as if my job has not been done yet. So I'm ready to do that again.
Well, I think you're like me. Jobs will never get done. We'll just enjoy the process of doing the job. That's how we'll do it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I
Thank you,
thank you.
Glenn, for your time, and thank you for inviting me over once again.
I thank you so very much.
Thank you for connecting with us here at Touchstone Publishers. Please join our group Essential Leadership Skills and share your leadership knowledge with us all.